what to say that has not been said about this Monday morning meeting? Adding, just nurturing. But the one thing I want to say, and it's as a result of the pre-meeting conversation we were having, to use a metaphor of a garden, we are all flowers and roses just budding up every single Monday. I feel my roots getting stronger out of this work and out of sitting here with all of you. And so it is the nourishment of each other that supports me through the week. And I really appreciate that you guys have engaged in this with each other and with me and with all of us. And so welcome to today, little, not little, but sort of like not secret garden either, because it's not secret. You can invite anybody you want. And cross pollinate here. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. Melinda.
Oh, well, welcome everybody. As Isabel always says, it's sort of the Mondays are really a great way to begin the week. At Focusing Initiatives International, we're about to launch our new journal, which I'm only mentioning it is because we have contributors here in the room. Lynn Preston and also Ramel Washington have contributed an article about the Community Empowerment Group. And then we also have an article from about Indigenous focusing therapy from Beatrice and another participant. So it's just that our world is growing and different applications of how we're doing this, and also finding support during this time. So again, I just welcome everybody, and thank you, Steve, for being with us today. Lynn?
Yes, well, I want to welcome everybody also, and to comment on that garden metaphor. My sister said, all that matters is the garden. And I thought, really? All that matters is the garden? Because she has a lot of work to do. Her work doesn't matter, just the garden. She has a beautiful, beautiful garden. And then she said, and that metaphor holds for everything. And I just loved that when we see life as a garden, you know, there are many pestilences in the garden. There are many weeds in the garden. There's drought in the garden. There's all kinds of stuff in the garden, and it all has to coexist and find its way together. And then we kind of, we are the garden, and we're the cultivators of the garden. We're the gardeners as well, and we have to sort of nurture the life in the garden, and that balance between natural chaos and order, and all of the life forms of the garden. Anyway, I love that metaphor, and I'm so pleased to welcome Steve, who is our Steve, comes every time, and I've only gotten to know Steve this year, but he's been a focuser and a focusing teacher for many years, and I found out that he was Jean Genlin's focusing partner for a long time. And that's a special lineage and a special quality. Steve is passionate about so many things, theater, music, Jewish studies, which is how he connected with Jean around Jewishness and what it meant in terms of Jean's philosophy. And so I know you know Steve. Let's be particularly grateful for having him speaking to us this morning.
Hello, everybody. I'm feeling really grateful to have a chance again to be amongst you. I just want to, as I was beginning to think about or get a sense of what I wanted to talk about and explore with you, I did a sort of a mini TAE and had some sort of a sense, and the image came, and the image was of kind of like a floor, and then or a floor and ground, and then seeking these kind of places in which kind of water sprung forth, and that thought that focusing in some kind of way can help us to find those kind of living waters in good times and bad. And I'm just going to speak just a teeny moment about my connection with Jean, and it fits with that notion of this of the springing, water springing. We'd had a couple of conversations long distance. It was before Zoom and all of that, and there was this moment when we had sort of decided we would listen to each other in a focusing kind of way, and it was the first time. And I had been listening and for decades and that kind of thing, but it was Jean Gendlin, and so I was terrified, and so I was listening and could barely get a word out. And Jean said to me at the end of the conversation, this is what he said, and I think this captures so much. He said, I could feel your aliveness at the other end of the phone. And it was the best compliment I'd ever had. And everything else could grow from that aliveness. And I think that, and it gradually did. And so then that's what I want to talk a little bit about. I want to talk about how focusing, how we can come through hard times. I call it better, not bitter, and I'll tell you the little story and how focusing can help. Approximately 9 or 10 years ago, there had been on a personal and family level, there had been a sudden change that I didn't want, and a sense of ambiguous loss at a personal and fear, and that was going on. And I recall being in the hospital restaurant with a good friend, and we're talking about all of this, and suddenly, coming out of my mouth was, we can get, whatever happens, we can get through this thing better, not bitter. And I think that in some kind of way, the 10 years that I had as a focuser and had allowed me to be able to have that kind of trust. And so what I'm going to be doing today is kind of working with that. I kept it in some kind of way as a motto, and as a motto and an inspiration. This better, not bitter, or bigger, not bitter. And one of the things that I find, and I'm curious to hear over time with you folks, is that having some kind of a motto or an intention can be grounding when there's lots of waves, and can be grounding and steadying as well as inspiring. So what I'm going to do is I'll start looking at these words, and how focusing can help with that. So I don't think I have to talk very much about the hard times. We've all experienced hard times in our lives before the hard times of the pandemic and the current social justice struggles that are going on, and the fears and the uncertainty and the hurts and the anger and all of that. We've all had experiences, and now we're having this particular one at a global level. And so I wanted to just add to the hard times, a term that I just heard yesterday. Some of you may be familiar with a podcast called On Being, and I just heard an interview with someone talking about the notion of ambiguous loss. And I think that kind of uncertainty that we experience and the fears that we may have of loss and anxieties is connected, can be housed in that term, ambiguous loss. So I just kind of add that. So that's kind of about hard times. And I want to talk about when that phrase, coming through hard times better, not bitter. What I'd like to do is start with a little bit of talk about bitter and what bitterness is. And I broadly define that. I mean, bitterness can be seen as a stuck place, a stoppage, a sense of being trapped, in anger or in fear, and can be thought of as a form of I think Jean used the term stoppage, and a stoppage of our life force, and our life forwarding in a direction that nourishes the other flowers in the garden and ourselves. I came across a quote, and the quote is from Nelson Mandela, and this is what the quote says. This is about bitterness here. He said, "As I walked out the door towards the gate that would lead to my freedom, I knew that if I didn't leave my bitterness and my hatred behind, I'd still be in prison." And so I like to think about bitterness broadly as being a side of kind of a psychospiritual prison. And there are ways that we can get trapped, or that are there are ways that are absence of being listened to, and absence of the kind of listening that focusing can give, can help us for our pain turn into a bitterness prison. And so what I want to do is I want to talk about how focusing can help to contribute to staying out of the prison. And these are many things that I'm sure that you're aware of as focusers. I think that one of the things that one of the ways to think about focusing, or that started to happen for me as I'm preparing for this, is to think about focusing as to make up a word, a bettering process. So and it's a bettering process in good, and we can use it in good times and bad. And I'll talk a little bit more about the portals into that bettering process. But one of the things that can help us to stay out of that, or get out of that prison, or avoid getting into that prison, is the focusing attitude. That we can bring that we can bring difficult feelings, or bring to our difficult feelings that are inevitable. We can bring this focusing attitude, and it's been called different things. It's been called caring, feeling, presence by the biospiritual people. Ann Weiser Cornell has called it self in presence, and those are two very powerful kinds of ways to think about it. So that if we bring to those angers and those scared feelings and those hurt feelings and those disappointments and the sadnesses, if we can bring that focusing attitude towards it, a couple of things happen. One is that it can separate us in some kind of way and begin to develop a relationship with the feelings. So that can be steadying, and that can help us with self-regulation. So which is a way of staying out of prison. It also can become what, to use again a quote from Ann Weiser Cornell, which would be that it helps us to become bigger than what bugs us, bigger than what is bothering us. And so that we can have that kind of holding of the difficult feeling and not be held and controlled by it. So that's something that can help us to avoid the prison. And that's better. That's better than being in a prison. Okay, but getting out of a psychological a prison is better than being trapped in the prison of bitterness, but there's more, and focusing can offer this to us, to what I might call the bettering process, or the Better Not Bitter project. It's how it helps us to find and live our right direction when we feel painful emotions. And I think that there are, actually, I'm going to give the, well, I'll back up, sorry. So I think that there are two portals to that, to bettering. One portal, and maybe there's more, but these are the ones I can think about. One is the portal, we could say the portal of sorrow, or the portal of the sourness in our lives, or the portal of what's wrong. And that's very much captured with, and most of us have come to focusing connected to some sort of difficulty and some sort of difficult emotion. And the question around clearing a space is something like, what's between me and feeling all okay? And so it's usually something of that sort of hard, painful area. So that's one portal. And focusing, we've all had experiences of working with focusing through that. Another portal is the portal of not what's going wrong, but what's strong, or not what's sorrowful or sour, but what's sweet, or what is sweet, or what is ideal. And so I think of those as being two portals to finding our own bettering process. And another way to say that would be to finding our own better next step. And another way further to say that would be to get a sense of what is core value to us, our value, our vision, even if the vision is, we can just squint it and it's getting just a small intimation of it. So I'm going to give a Jean Gendlin quote that everybody knows, and it's around that portal, around what's between me and that's that every bad feeling is a potential energy toward a more right way of being if we give it space to move towards its rightness. And with focusing, we give it a special kind of space and a certain kind of friendly interaction, and we bring compassionate curiosity to that, so that we can get below the whatever the difficult body feel or the emotion to the felt sense and the life forward felt meaning that's there. And there's a powerful, in focusing, we've inherited a powerful curiosity question, and that's the crux question. And that crux question very often can be terribly helpful in the sense of going, when, you know, what's the worst of this? What's at the heart of what's most painful or angering or sorrowful or hurtful about, scary about this? That crux question is tremendously, it really gets to it. And by doing that, we get to experience a shift. And if you'll pardon my cuteness with language, and I say shift happens. And and it's interesting that you go from shit happening to shift happens, in the sense that the letter that we put in from before the letter T and between the letter I and T is F, and for focusing. So it helps a shift happen. So I think that there's so that crux question really helps that happen. And so when the shift happens, then we can touch that life force in some kind of way, and that better feeling. And I think that there's something that we can do even further, but maybe you already have, which I hadn't, but I started in preparing this, which is kind of going to asking some curious questions about when the shift happens. So we can ask what's a good next step, but also we can say, and get that, a right next step for ourselves. But we can also ask the question, something like, what's best about this shift, or what I'm feeling right now? And also, we could ask something like, is there a value or a virtue or a vision embodied in this shift? So we can kind of see if the going through the hard thing can show an implicit value and help to make it explicit. So that's the portal of misery in some way or another, or what's hard or wrong or painful. The other portal is that focusing can be very helpful with, is the portal of, you know, what we've inherited from our various wisdom traditions, and what we've inherited from our culture, or from some character that we saw in a play or read about in a book or in a novel. There something that some value, some principle, some virtue that we've seen and that can speak to us. So we could use focusing and its capacity for resonance, that dimension of it, to see, is there a value or a virtue or a vocation that might be calling to me in a whisper kind of way? And it doesn't have to be a big thing, but it's kind of, because there have been all kinds, if you go online, you can see large lists of virtues and values and that kind of thing, but not all of them call to us. And the ones that call are the ones that that resonate in some kind of way, they can become part of, and they're important to us, and they can become part of our core values. And our core values can form in some way or another an aim, and the aim can be steadying. So I think that I'd like to find a way to stop there. Yeah, I'd like to stop there and give you some time. I'll take a breath and give you some time also to kind of take some moments, and I'll guide you in an attunement. Actually, before I do that, I just want to say this other thing, that there's something about this. Yeah, it's picking up on what Isabel was saying and Lynn was saying. There's something about our embarking on a bettering process that affects other people and affects our surroundings for the better. And so then these values that we find and that can shape our actions and our non-actions can nourish others in the garden. So I'll stop at that particular point. So I'm just going to get some water, and I'll be back in a second and guide you. Okay. So let's take some moments and just start to be aware of whatever grounding happens for you here and is happening for you here together with all of us in this shared virtual space together. And just kind of let that come in. And then when you're ready, see about noticing where you are. The feel of the room. Any sounds that might be there. The sound and feel of your breath. Without having to do anything to change it. And just like you're letting in and feeling the support of the chair, the couch that you're sitting on. Feel the support of the people here around you. And the support of the many shifts that you've experienced, small, medium, and large, in focusing alone or in partnership. And then kind of drop in the question into the middle of your body. Is there a life forwarding value or virtue or direction that's emerging for me from the inside right now? And it may be emerging from the portal of pain, of a pain that you have interacted with, and be implicit in that. Or it could be coming from already formed, inherited values. From the other portal. And just pay attention there. Maybe something is whispering. As you give microscopic attention inside. Or you might find that there isn't at this point. Maybe there's a something else that's saying, not now. I just need to survive. And that's okay too, of course. So take some time. You may want to write something down. It could come, as we know, in a word or a phrase, an image, a memory, song lyric. When you're ready, just make your way up. You may want to write something in the chat. Before we go into our breakout rooms, is there anything that someone would like to share about what came for them, or came for them in either in the attunement or in the conversation? And if you do, can you unmute yourself?
This is a time for you to share anything that's there for you. And we want to especially invite the new people that are with us today to share anything that came from for you. And I want to say, Steve, that was so helpful to me. Wow, really amazingly helpful. And I love that bettering process and this sort of sense that we can be better rather than bitter, and that the bettering process is kind of contagious, that when one person has a kind of shift into that bettering process, it just is the air that all of us breathe there. Thank you so much, Steve. It was wonderful.
When you share two things. One, deep vows of gratitude and appreciation to Steve, who has been a stakeholder in this community since the beginning, since we started. I want to thank you for the framework of framing the conversation from shift to shit, because I think for me, it's important to sort of like be with that shit happens, and two, that I can shift that to something else. And so it gives me more of a bigger canvas to play with and draw on, rather than the limited space that I may cage myself in when I'm in that space of, stuff that's happening. And then the second thing is the quote, Gendling quote, it's in the chat. I told you about the cutting and pasting before, but if you forgot, you can just cut, paste, and put it someplace else. And also the link to the ambient conversation with Kristen Tippett. It's also, the link is there. So if you wanted to take that on.
Thank you, Isabel. I just want to say that around the shift happens is that, I mean, the shit can turn into compost, but it still smells when it's shit. So we don't have to pretend, something can grow garden-wise from the compost. Anyway, anyone else?
Robert wants to putting it on.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for that powerful attunement. And also what really stood out for me was like really connecting to how focusing helps with self-regulation. And also in the focusing, listening, what you said about Jean feeling the aliveness in the listener. And so I'm really putting that together with that self-regulation, because I think it's, yes, we want a conceptual understanding, and we want to be listened to and sort of get a sense that the person understands what we have said. But I think there's this other level of simply of feeling the aliveness of sitting with someone. I mean, like of presencing oneself, being with someone.
Mhm.
That's very powerful. And I was talking yesterday with somebody who is about to teach a class about Zoom fatigue. And I said, well, in like focusing and other practices I'm doing, I don't feel that. And so we kind of put together a whole list of what people could do not to have Zoom fatigue, which we practicing focusing and other presencing practices are already doing. And you kind of did every single point we put on that list in the beginning, just that process of sensing our own presence in our room, sensing the support of the people who are with us, all those things. It's, if we do them, you could have a 5-day retreat and not feel any Zoom fatigue.
Mhm.
So yeah, again, thank you for the whole attunement. And maybe one more thing, what you said about that, sensing the uncomfortable places, or the, like in my case, it's anxiety, fear a lot, or whatever. For me, the question often is like, what's the positive intention in that?
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
So if I can say, okay, my fear,
Yeah.
I want to be safe, that's a good thing.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
then really settle with that, then maybe it's easier to take a step out of that contracted. So again, thank you very much.
Yeah. I like that very much, that positive intention and that sort of
Yes.
positive life flow in some way or another, or need or wanting. Yeah. Thank you.
Good.
I'd like to share something. I very grateful, Steve, for supplying hopefulness again, because what I find, this tendency to move toward the discouragement. Bitterness is such a strong word, but I can own it. I just love the way you just used your language so directly and just emotionally, honestly. It felt very refreshing to me. And what I took away was my shift was I'm noticing that my eyesight is getting worse and worse. And that's a little scary to me. And I'm noticing that I'm not seeing the other, even across the table at a restaurant. I'm not seeing, and I'm going into some avoidant thing. And so today, with the shift, I could see, like, I can take an action about that. I can get closer to the person. I could share that I'm having trouble seeing and not go into embarrassment and avoidance. So that was so helpful to me to see what I could do. That's what I got from changing bitterness to betterment, that you can really take actions specific to what is your obstacle, my obstacle. Thank you very much.
Oh, I like that phrase. Yeah, we can take action specific to what our obstacle is and the thing we're up against.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
So this is Ayana. This is Ayana. I don't know if you can hear me.
Hi.
Yeah. So what I got are just this love that's being given to me, to take in the love that's being extended to me. That's what I got.
Mm,
Thank you, Ayana.
yeah.
I'm new here. I just gonna interrupt real quick, please, because I
Yeah.
have to leave. But I was invited by Isabel, and thank you for allowing me to be here. This was very helpful. I just want to say that there are times when I was meditating, I feel very much alone, but yet I still feel loved. So this
Mm,
is like by my family and my friends. So this is kind of new to me because doing the Zoom, I've only done it with my church. And now I can see that there's a whole community of people that are very much in similar spots as myself. So I really am appreciative to be here. This is a learning experience for me. So I thank you. And that's what came to my mind was I feel alone at times, but I still feel loved. So hopefully that loneliness dissipates as I get busier doing other things and getting more involved and getting out more. So and I work in the healthcare field. So I see a lot of stuff that's not so great. And so at times when I'm home by myself, it does get to me, to be
mm.
honest. So thank you for having me. I have to, unfortunately, go off to a little side job that I'm doing. But I will try my best to be here again next week.
Great.
I could
We
even,
want to give you a big welcome and
oh, thank
good
you.
to be
I like,
part of this helping community.
yeah, and you guys, everyone here is helping me, just so you know, seeing your smiles and your faces and whatever issues you have, just know that for me, what I do, sunlight. I just get out there and just get some sunshine and listen to music. So, and having you guys, ladies and gentlemen here is awesome too. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna log off. I have to get somewhere in about an hour. I don't want to be late, but I hope to be here next week. And I can also put my email in the chat or my number for anybody who wants to talk otherwise, or just take a walk on a boardwalk if you like. All right.
Thank
I'll
you.
put my info and thank you. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Really. Thank you so much.
Take good care.
Thank you. You too.
Anybody else here? We have a good conversation going, and maybe Isabel, you think we should have a few more before we break up at about 10 after 9 so that we'll
I'd
what do
like to,
I think we have room for a few more. And
Yeah.
just as a reminder, because if people have to leave, that they leave before the break, just so we can offer space for those who stay. And you know, and so there's not a lag. And I understand that people have other commitments. So if you have to go, then this is the time to sort of like go. If you
Okay, so we have room for a few more comments.
I'd like to bring in another binary that Steve portals. He said many portals, but I'd like to bring in this whole portal of guilt
Hmm.
versus the portal of privilege, and this whole notion of inequality, which is really on the streets right now, in terms of white guilt, uh, guilt of privilege, of education, of income, of uh, gender. All of those things the young people are asking us as older folks who have give birth to them. What is really happening to my life? What am I looking for? We are people who have uh, had the privilege of uh, being prosperous after the Second World War, and all of those privileges not having. We might have had the atomic bomb. I mean, the bomb as a part of the fear. But somehow the armistice stood. But now the young people are, with technology, with the fall of colonial powers, and all the post-colonial issues in the third world, uh, what asking for the, the, for instance, in right now as we speak in Beirut, they're asking what kind of governance issues do we really have? The Palestinians are asking, you know, what is this wall all about? The South African blacks are asking, are we still really out of apartheid? The Aboriginal people all over the world in Brazil are asking, what the hell is going on? The, the governance model is breaking down, and you're bringing in this new thing that we're bringing in. Do we work out of guilt? Do we work out of privilege? And what really is the meaning? And what can focusing bring to this new paradigm that is very much in the geist, but nobody really wants to talk about it. And that's really what really I'm really asking for help here on the one hand. On the other hand, this is what my intention is for the rest of my life, actually, to figure out what is going to be helpful. Amen.
Lynn, you're muted.
Thank you, Melinda. I was just thanking you for that comment, and it's such an important one. And I just want to reflect back that there's another portal of growth, of betterment, that has to do with guilt and privilege. And maybe we'll have a program about that. And I think that focusing can really help in terms of distinguishing between guilt that has to do with communal responsibility and shame that can be demoralizing and feels like there's something wrong with the self. And I really would like to take up the challenge that you brought here this morning and really address it more directly. Thank you very much. Steve, I didn't mean to
No.
take that away from you.
No, it's fine. I'm glad you spoke it. Yeah, and I'm grateful that there's that, you know, to be looking at that third portal. Thank you. Anyone else?
And when nobody says anything, it's a little uncomfortable. And here it's, like for me right now, it's the exact opposite. There's like, I don't feel like I need to say anything about what happened. And I feel very, I don't know, complete would be one word, full. And so I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert.
This is Sophie. I like the word you shed some light to today, bitterness. I was sharing with my partner in my breakout room that I sense in this word more range and subtlety. And I really like this this word. I'm gonna take that in my little toolbox. The bitterness. And the main portal for me was focusing has been the focusing attitude. Finding a way or discovering and developing a way to be my own companion in a gentle and presence kind of a way with difficult emotions or toughness, stuckness, imprisonment inside. It has been like a lifesaver, really. So thank you to Jandlin and all the other that made that possible. Thank you for bringing that
Thank
word,
you.
Eve, of bitterness. I appreciate.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is Shashi. I was I was in group with two people who are from different country, and as women, I think that we've been raised in such a way as there's a little space left for really knowing and being sensitive to your own feelings, because the roles and roles are so defined that that this whole focusing effort has been for us to become really sensitive to our own selves and our own feelings and our own just learning to be sensitive to ourselves so we can be and the um, that was my take in it, that we are learning to know more about our own senses and be sensitive to our own self, so then we can be more sensitive to others. That's how I picked out from my group. And it is it's not a simple task. It's an infinite task to focus. It can go on and from little to big. So we are kind of just beginning to grow a little bit of wings. We are just beginning to, like little callows, just like learning to do a little bit of that. And it feels good. It feels real, and it feels empowering, and it's doable. It's doable. It's not something impossible. It's doable. And the more you can do to yourself, the more um, you can be, the more you can be useful for others.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
So I'm noticing the time.
Yeah.
And want to invite one last comment, share, whatever it's present. Nothing is there, as Robert says. Sometimes the silence just hold whatever came, and it sort of like protects it. And I want to keep that blanket there, that sort of like covering, if that's what's needed. So two announcements. One, next week it's Charlotte, and so I'm very excited about that. And then the following week is Dara Ellaby Williams. Some of you may know her or not. And so you know, we are really bringing in some heavy hitters here. So just wanted to say that, and hopefully, you know, you will invite more people. Only a point of clarification, and that is that this group is it's open to the helpers. And so the definition of helpers for this purpose is very broad. And so whoever you feel called to invite, please do so. It's not only for therapists or this or that. We all in helpers role in one way or another. And so being able to share that with whoever you see that may need the space to come in and check us out, it's fine. Anything you want to say, Melinda, about around that? I know you have an announcement about Corona Plaza.
Oh, well, first of all, I just wanted to thank Steve from my heart, because I came in myself so all over the place. And I could feel the personal permission to really let the light in. I was reminded of the Rumi poem about the wound is a place where the light enters, and that's what I needed today. But I think that's all I need to say. And just that at coronaplaza.life, there are lots of programs to support our well-being toolbox. And just want to wish everyone well for this week.
I'm gonna put the poem in the chat because I know sometimes it's kind of like people want to have it, and so I'm gonna put it in the chat today. But I think that this one is also a piece that speaks to me and speaks to many of us with the work that we do. It's called A Morning Blessing by John O'Donohue. I bless the night that nourished my heart to set the goals of longing free into the flow and figure of dream that went to harvest from the dark. Bread for the hunger no one sees. All that is eternal in me welcomes the wonder of this day. The field of brightness it creates, offering time for each thing to arise and illuminate. I place on the altar of dawn the quiet loyalty of breath, the tent of thoughts where I shelter, waves of desire, I am sure too, and all beauty drawn to the eye. May my mind come alive today to the invisible geography that invites me to new frontiers, to break the dead shell of yesterdays, to risk being disturbed and changed. May I have the courage today to live the life that I would love, to postpone my dream no longer, but do at last what I came here for, and waste my heart on fear no more. So I'm gonna put it in the chat for if I can. I don't seem to be able to today. I'll send it to Melinda so she can send it to you. Thank you so much, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you,
See
Trevor,
you
for
next
bringing
week.
that piece around social justice.
Yes, thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, all.
I'm reassigning you, Melinda.